Good evening. Cheltenham Festival 2021 is done. I know a lot of people will be feeling a bit lethargic now. It's not the same sort of tiredness as we normally get from Cheltenham. Obviously, travelling down there, drinking, getting on it, the mental exhaustion. For me, but personally, it's been a bit easier this year without the travel, and I've had quite a few commitments in, but that bit of travel and stuff has made things that tiny bit easier. So I don't want to sound relieved that Cheltenham's over, but I'm sad more than anything. But yeah, it's nice to know that for the next couple of weeks at least, or at least week, I can take a bit of a back seat from focusing all my attention on National Hunt racing. But the point of this video is, I obviously did a video before showing you my anti-post position pre-Cheltenham. Just wanted to follow it up with what I made this year on that anti-post book. I've added in bets that I've placed in during the week as well. So this will show you the revised stakes, show you the total monetary figure, and then it will give you the list of the winners that came out of it. And I'm not going to go into the full depth of my nearlies, my ones that could have done better, anything like that. There's just one thing that I do need to mention in there, which we'll come on to when I look at the screen. Obviously, Friday was decent days racing. I'll do like a little mini review in this part. It's typical of National Hunt racing that obviously things can happen to horses in any race. You look at that RSA form from last year. Champ obviously got the job done. Just for whatever reason wasn't going today. Manila Indo that he beat and Allaho that he beat then turn up to win Ryanair and Gold Cup the year after. So there's going to be decent formulas going into next year. There's a lot of stuff that when we did early season talks, David and I, and then a few bits that we did like the mid-season previews that, they're the bits that you need to sort of still keep forward in your mind. Although the more recent previews will sway us in a certain direction. Some stuff's worth leaving a little bit, I think. Handicaps this year, I tried to go in with a slightly different tact than I've done in the last couple of years, more so to what I did previously, where I'd spend a bit more effort before weights and things came out. But I'm definitely starting to err towards the side now where I think I'd rather stay away from the handicaps until maybe the week before. I know I'll miss out on some prices, and there's a couple of winners that will be in here that I backed at bigger prices, but it's food for thought for next season anyway. But hopefully most people did all right this year. It seemed like a festival going into it that was going to be punter friendly. Obviously there's been a few horses, Chacon Poursoir, your Envoys, even Paisley to an extent, that got beat, that caused some people some misery. Kilcrook getting beat in the bumper would have cost a few people a few quid. Even Zana here in the Triumph today. But overall I think it's been fairly level. Bookies and punters, and fingers crossed a couple of big price winners that were put up by some people today have steered some people out the crap if they needed it. Speaking of that, I'll do a review of anti-up. I need to wait till I can speak to Matt. We're going to go through all the anti-up selections that we did this year, warts and all, show you how we fared, whether it's profitable or loss on there. That was going to be done regardless of how things played out at Cheltenham, but just to tie that series up, we'll get that done, and then hopefully we'll put out a bit of content towards Aintree, Fairyhouse and Punchestown, because I'm really, really excited about the spring festivals. There's already 3 horses from Cheltenham that I've noted that I think are going to pop up at Punchestown, and I'm happy to have a reasonable size chunk on, so I'll filter that through to you guys as I can. Obviously, these instant reactions that we have, they're worth noting and worth keeping fresh in your mind, because as time goes past and bias will come in where other people will talk about other stuff, we may sway our opinions a little bit, so get a little notepad of the ones you like, and maybe, again with the travel and stuff, it maybe is worth something that a lot of people probably don't do, a lot of people do, but watch the racing back this year and then give yourself a view of like an opinion of it now, and then you can obviously reassess that as the season goes on. But just watch the festival back, see about some hard luck stories and see which horses probably outran their expectations compared to what you thought, and then it's fresh in your mind for future in the season, because once you go 2 or 3 months down the line, you'll be swayed by Punchestown, you'll be swayed by what's happened at Aintree, so try and do that in the next few days. If not, don't worry about it, I'll help you out anyway. So we'll go to the business. The whole point of you guys that probably are watching this is to see how I got on. So sharing the screen now, that's showing you my bet loader. So you'll see that the total staked figure has changed a bit. I'm just going to take myself over to that file itself. So the total staked figure has jumped up. Can't remember exactly where I was. It was under 5.5 pre-Cheltenham. Obviously, there's been some money that's been struck during the week as well. Playing a few positions, maybe taking a bit of extra cover on some races where I felt needed. You can see there the total win returns. Now, these are the ones that are left over of the horses and how it's panned out from various bets that have squeezed in. The one that I wanted to touch on in here is the Sir Gerhard one that's obviously jumped up. Well, I say obviously jumped up, you wouldn't know it's jumped up. I put some bets on right at the start of the season, which you can go back and see in the previous video, where we had Galvin, Sir Gerhard and Monkfish, Paisley and Salsaretta right at the start of the season. Now, they were like sort of dreamy, weavery bets. Paisley was going for quite a few quid this year for me. Going into or after Wednesday, it was going for about 7.5 grand. Which, like, I'd like to have a horse that might be a big payday for me, but I talked about the fact in the ante-up that if he got beat at the beginning of the season, I'd be semi against him. Then I sort of turned around a little bit, but basically, I traded myself out of position. Those multiple bets that I put up with the fours and the threes, I took 1,500 quid out of that. So reduced my potential wins on Paisley down to 3 grand, but that's been encompassed in this Sir Gerhard number that's come out. So I mean, even if you took that away, it's part and parcel of it. We can do what we want, can't we? We could either back other horses or play a position. It would bring this down by probably 1,500 quid if we want to be that way inclined. But still, the actual win returns that have come out of it is about 61% return on investment, I think, so just under 62%. When I did this monetary side thing in the last video, I showed you to buy my book at that time, how much it would have cost, and I think the return on investment or the increase on there was around about 65-ish%. So again, like, I know this isn't exactly how everything pans out, but from a value perspective, it sort of alluded to the fact that I'd be around the £9,000 figure, and then the fact that I've staked a little bit more since. That's increased that up. And also, you'll remember that the bottom, I mean, I probably should edit this video and chuck all these clips in, but just go back and watch the other one if you don't believe what I'm saying. But in this point here, where we have the potential list of festival winners, it's still listed down there now. The forecast festival winners at the prices they were on the Monday when I showed you this clip was saying that there was 18 in there. Now, I suggested that it's over round because it's 20% extra you could slush in for the bookies. I mean, maybe they're only betting 115 or 10%, but hey-ho. So we just took a bit off of there, didn't we? We said, let's take up to 20% off. So between 10 and 20% off of that is 3.6 winners. Somewhere between 2, 3 and 4 winners you could chop off of there. So I think I said in the previous video, let's just say it'll be somewhere around about 15 winners that would come in. And as you can see how it's panned out across the festival, there are 16 horses that were left at the end of multiples, doubles or singles from the bit. So this is maybe a gloat for the bet loader that this does very much help in betting an anti-post portfolio. Like, it will give you a steer to where your position is, and when it gets nearer to the festival, you just want to shore up a couple of these bets, want to do a few bits that will make things better to you. Now, as I say, everyone's got hard luck stories. Like, Shakon's cost me a chunk, Envoy's cost me a chunk, Paisley's cost me a chunk, Xanahere's cost me a chunk. Even some horses that ran earlier in the week, like Happy Go Lucky, was 1,500 quid, my biggest winner that came second. But that's part and parcel of Cheltenham. So the point of it is that I know 28 races isn't like the same as saying a full year, but we talk about peaks and troughs. We talk about you might have a bad day, or you've got to trust the process. You've got to keep going with it. This is a much smaller sample given that it's 28 races, but I trust that hopefully across the week, the balance of good and bad results will put me in and around about the right sort of position. Obviously, I'm always hopeful that I might win a bit more. One of these days, one of these years, I will absolutely hoover up. I've had a few good years in there, but just things like this year, as I say, there's a few horses in there that were running for £2,000-3,000. One would have been running for 4 grand on the Friday had Paisley gone in, and there was another one for 7 grand if Envoy had gone in. But we've all got these sorts of stories. So from a realistic perspective, this is kind of what I expected to get back. And not saying I expected to get back as a minimum, but, from what we saw in the video before and what we're seeing now, it falls in line. So if you haven't checked that out, go and see it if you don't trust me. But this is basically whereabouts we fell in. That's pretty much it for the sake of this video. I'll sort of wrap it up now. Hopefully you guys have done all right this year. If not, then hey-ho, we can go again. The stuff that I try and put out really is geared around just trying to... I'm not like telling people what they should be doing. I just want to share the experiences that I'm going through, share the things that I'm learning, whether they help you, whether they make you think twice about something, whether they make you really like re-emphasize that you're doing the right things and you don't agree with some of the stuff that I'm doing. It's all fine. I just want to put this stuff out there because it's nice to talk horses. It's nice that you guys listen. And then I know that this bet loader does help a few people out. So we'll do the anti-up stuff, me and Matt, or Matt and I, to recompass what we went through for the selections there. I'll do a bit of a review of the festival this year as well, again, because it's not been as draining this year as other years. I should be able to squeeze that in at some point. I might have to do it on Facebook so I can put some video footage in, and then Racing TV can't copyright me on YouTube, so watch out on the Facebook page for that. And then for Aintree, Fairyhouse and Punchestown, I'm going to do, even if it's on my own, I'm going to put some content out there for some ones that I fancy, because I'm pretty sure I've got a few lined up for those festivals to make us a few quid. So obviously next year, Bet Loader, I'll get it sent out in the summer for people that want to start that up, so we'll talk about that another time. Don't pester me for the time being. Fingers crossed you've had a good week. Enjoy your weekend. If you're anything like me, then try and spend some time with your family and loved ones, because they've probably been neglected, and maybe take the dog out for an extra walk. And I bid you